Well, good morning, everyone. I suppose I'm your MC today. My name is Rick Kutcher, and I work at Rainbow Health with the community engagement and advocacy team. And I focus on the aging initiative and HIV and aging. That's who I am. But I'm here to introduce Hannah Edwards from Transforming Families. They support and work with trans and non-binary youth, and the families are involved. And today we're going to have a panel discussion. And thanks for coming. Appreciate you coming.
Could be using these. I feel like it's very good just to be maybe.
Right, how about that? That's better, right? Okay. I always feel awkward when I can hear my own voice, so. All right, good morning. I'm Hannah Edwards. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the director of Transforming Families. And we're here to talk a little bit about what we do and how Transforming Families has made a difference in our lives. And then maybe we'll have some time for questions from you all. So for those of you who don't know, Transforming Families is a group that started about 12 years ago to support trans and non-binary kiddos and their parents and caregivers. We started with one meeting a month in Minneapolis, and we've grown and expanded from there. We now have 4 meetings a month. We have a St. Paul meeting, we have a Matamidi meeting, we have a Minneapolis meeting and an Egan meeting, and those are all in person. And then we also have an online virtual meeting that is for parents and caregivers only. All of our in-person meetings, we have groups where the parents get together and share resources. Sometimes, depending on how large that group is, we'll break off into 2 groups. Parents of what we call littles and parents of olders. And that group is peer led, right? So it's a parent to parent sort of a group, sharing resources and stories, and helping people along their journey as they support their child. And then as the parents meet, we have our kiddos go off in their own groups. So our teens and teens meet with paid adult facilitators who are trans or non-binary identified themselves. And they've all gone through background checks and training, and they're just amazing humans. And so that group, that teens and tweens group, we like to hold sacred for only trans, non-binary, or questioning youth, which is different from our littles group. And so our littles group go off and they have a play-based group, right? They might go out on the playground, they might do a craft or a game. And those groups are led by either parent volunteers or, as much as possible, also by a trans or non-binary adult. Those groups are open for cis siblings or friends or cousins, as well as our trans and non-binary youth or questioning youth. And that's because we don't want anybody to miss a support meeting based on childcare, right? And so, yeah. Pretty amazing. I came to Transforming Families in 2015 with my questioning at that point child, and I've been in and out, supported by Transforming Families for the whole time. Just in the last year and a half, I've become the director. Today, I have some lovely parents and facilitators with me. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves and talk about their role briefly with Transforming Families before our first question.
Hello, my name is Totally Regatta. I use they, them pronouns. And I started off at Transforming Families, I think it was the March before, or February before I started off as a facilitator. I heard about the opportunity to work with younger trans, non-binary, questioning youth, and I worked in education at the time, and so it just felt very personal and meaningful to me to pursue. And from there, taken off, loved it a great deal, and now I'm the assistant director as of August, and doing that work as well, and really loving the chance to connect more with the whole family with different meetings and other community events like this one. So I've been really loving that so far.
Good morning. My name is Jenna Fuchs, and I am the parent of an amazing trans son. And I live near St. Cloud. I live in a small town of like 800. So I bring a rural perspective to TFF. And my son is 9, and we started attending TFF 3.5 years ago during the pandemic through the virtual option, which helped it be accessible to us living out of the area. Yeah, I think that's all I want to share about me right now. I'll pass to Gretchen.
Good afternoon, I'm Gretchen Wynn, and I am the mother of a really cool cis kiddo and a really cool trans kiddo. And I am a part of Transforming Families. I help with facilitating and joining meetings as I need. And both of my kiddos love going to Transforming Families, and it's a really cool time for them to bond, and we really enjoy that space.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get into our questions now. So the first question, I was sitting thinking, how can we get to the heart of what we do at Transforming Families? And so I thought about my first time at Transforming Families and what brought me there, and how I found TFF and how much it's helped my family grow. I always like to share this story. I went to TFF for the first time on my 30th birthday. Ooh, party animal, I know. But it was just so amazing to find my people. And so I was wondering if you all could tell me how you first came to be part of Transforming Families. How did you find us, and what did it mean to you to attend your first meeting?
So I discovered the chance to be trained to facilitate through one of our leadership team, Mike, reaching out and asking, looking for trans and non-binary facilitators for littles, and got trained in December virtually online. We're trying to figure out finally rejoin in-person meetings, and I just going to St. Paul and connecting with those youth and just focusing on joy and play and a chance for those youth to talk about their identity they wanted to, but not feel the pressure that they had to, was just really a beautiful experience. And as a trans adult who came out in 2019, so into my adulthood, it's a very different experience, and it moved me a great deal to see these youth being fully themselves, to see their siblings and their friends and cousins fully supporting them, and just to share who I was as they wanted to hear and wanted to know more, but also just connect with them through play and have that space. It just felt really special. And as I've done a mixture of littles and then also teen groups, the teens are also really inspiring. All different levels. We have 12 and 13-year-olds in the same space as sometimes like 18-year-olds trying to almost figure out college and next steps. And talking about anything from what they want to pursue next, their concerns, their joys, their fears, what their favorite TV show and video games, and just the humor that they brought, the laughs that it really spoke just a great deal to me. And from there, just knew this something that even if it's just once a month, the love and the joy I have pursuing that, and also telling friends who also are trans and non-binary, please come. We love to have you train in if this is something you're interested in, is a good fit for you. And it's brought them joy as well to see this community that I think intergenerationally we're trying to really work on in trans and community of like, how do we connect youth to adults in different ways, and just open up that space for that. So it's been really wonderful so far.
I first connected with TFF virtually through the Facebook group. We have a really robust parent community on Facebook. And I just had so many questions. I'm really fortunate that when my son shared with us that he was the brother of our family, I was really ready to accept that. My grandma always said, you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. And so I got a son, and when I found out that I had a son, that's what we had, and we embraced that. But I didn't know how to help everyone else embrace our son. And so I literally Googled trans kids Minnesota and found TFF, got it added to the Facebook group, started asking questions, looking for other people who had really young children. Our son was going into kindergarten when he shared that with us. So he was just a little dude, and we didn't know what our rights were. We didn't know how to advocate for him. He had some really crushing experiences going into first grade around bathrooms and appropriate facilities. And it was a place, the parent group was a place where I could say, this feels really messed up, but how do I explain to the people messing up how messed up they're being? And that was really helpful. And then also, so it was the Facebook group first, but then a few months later, I started going to the virtual caregiver meetings, and it was a place to connect with other people and share joy. And that has also been really huge because people don't always understand the joy that comes from seeing your child embrace who they are and the freedom and the lightness. And so to be able to share that with people that get it, we really think about Cam's first haircut, the big chop, sharing that picture and just, when he settled on his name, the right name for him, people that just really cheered us on. Just really a beautiful community. So that is really what brought me to TFF. And then seeing the impact on our life, I wanted to pay that forward. And so I became a parent facilitator, and I lead the virtual meeting on the last Sunday of the month. So that has been a way to give back and just keep fueling the joy and support that comes with having kids like ours.
I found TFF because we were looking for a dance studio, and that was something way outside of my wheelhouse. And I wanted to make sure that my, at the time, preschool daughter was in a space that accepted her. And I stumbled upon TFF, and we have since not really stuck with dance, just fine. But we have stuck around with TFF, and we stay there for the resources, we stay there for the support. And like you just mentioned, both to be able to have a community to share our joy and our lows, because sometimes, unfortunately, really hard things can happen for our kiddos, and we're expected the next day to just go to work. And that's hard. And so TFF is helpful because it gets us connected to different resources for us to do the things we need to do to advocate and all of that. But it also gives us that space to have a true community to be able to say, like, this sucks, and have that person say, yeah, it does.
I have a question to Jenna. I transitioned in rural Wisconsin, and it was actually very good because everybody knew each other, and they said, well, I liked it before you transitioned, so you don't change, that's okay. If you personality. How is it for you in the small community? I suppose it's everybody knows each other, and how did they receive the news?
So we live in a really small town, but our school is part of St. Cloud Area School District. So we do have the both and. So my son's elementary school is our smallest and most rural building in our district, and he is the first elementary age kiddo to transition. So one of the things that made it hard was that the school had a process for supporting transitions for older students, but they didn't have that form for elementary. And I said, well, let me just cross this out and we'll write it in. I mean, let's just make it work. And so, and I work for that district as well, which has been an interesting dimension. That's another thing. So in that sense, it has been tricky in some ways, but my husband grew up in that town and went to that same elementary school. And so, it's one of those names people are like, oh yeah, you're from here. And that's been helpful to say, we're not some, West Coast liberal left wingers. Like, we are Stearns County through and through. This isn't someone coming in from somewhere else with an agenda. You're from here, and trans people come from here, and trans people don't have to leave here. Has been something we've been really adamant about. Is he doesn't have to move, we don't have to move, but you need to change. So, the grocery store where they know us all, all those kind of things. We said, well, actually, Cam's actually a boy, and so, that's just what's up, and we're rolling with it. People have been like confused, but too polite to say anything negative, Minnesota. So in that sense, yeah, it's been cool, but for a lot of folks in my husband's family, Cam is the first trans person they've ever met. And so that has been like, wait, what is that? My grandma's 88 and plays cards with people and quilts with people, and she is educating the Fox News generation. She's saying, well, that's not even true. Well, my great grandson, and she's been at that reporter, and that's been really powerful. When people say, oh, well, that's that generation, you can't change them. Well, my 88-year-old grandmother has never messed up his pronouns since day one. So we would like to push back on some of those narratives out in the country.
Let's just hear it for the great grandparents who get it right. My grandma's 90, and I often say the same thing. I'm like, she lives in Florida and she's in with it. So if my 90-year-old grandma can get it, you can too. I think this is a good transition actually to, and this is our second question because I think we kind of hit it. We're going to talk about sort of those ways that transforming families shows up other than the meetings. Because we do our monthly meetings. When I was sitting and thinking about what transforming families means to me personally, and when has my transforming families family shown up for my family, I immediately am thrown back 8 years to the night that my daughter's school hosted the Minnesota Family Council in their gymnasium to talk about my child and my family and her transition. And the excuse was, yes, we know this is a hate group, but anybody can rent the gym. And so I think about that. And I think about how we set up at Transforming Families along with Out Front and gender justice, a counter protest. And so that night we asked for everybody to wear purple. And my anxiety was here going into the meeting and walking into the gymnasium and seeing all my people there. It became a night that was, even though there was this hate and anxiety, it was really a love-filled night. And so I want you to think maybe of a time when transforming families outside of the group has helped support your family, or maybe in the community, something that's a meaningful point to you.
I had the honor of being able to attend Pride this year, and it was during the parade. So I've been to the parade before, and so it was like I'll let people have their time to shine at the parade, and I'll table, and then be ready for the crowds of people coming after. And I spent most of the time, we have these wonderful Be Brave stickers with the trans flag colors on them. and just spend those 2 hours just reaching out to people and just passing out stickers, and the number of people who came up to our table to be like, oh, I do want to be brave, or oh, what is your organization? Or even just saying thank you for what you do. It's so important. We need you. And seeing that, I think it's just important for everyone to feel empowered, whether you feel like, I am a trans individual myself, and so there's some parts that are very personal, family, people, but someone who feels like I want to support, but I don't know how. Where do I stand up? Where do I stand? And knowing about organization and being able to donate or know about our events, and we're having so many events coming up in places like here where we really continue and just show up about who we are. For everyone to have that knowledge and then be able to pass that on or just share about our event, it feels like it really can spread and that everyone does have an impact. And the variety of families we saw in that space at Dinner Pride, and just, children and teens, and I was waving around a non-binary flag, a little mini one that I got from the St. Paul Pride, and there were multiple teens who were wearing their non-binary flags, and they said that's the same flag that I have. It was really beautiful. And so I think just seeing all ages of I worked in elementary school, I can't be in every space, but there are ways that I can see you and you can see me in that one moment, in that one connection, and that's really special. And it really helps us just feel like we are on the same team, and there are a lot of people who care, and there are ways to show up. No matter if you're volunteering or tabling or just see it as an event or how the community is still really special. And we're happy to have you whatever way you want to show up and know what we do. So
I think a way that TFF has helped me outside of the meetings was the consultation with Anna and with other parents when we were navigating changing our son's name and gender marker at school. And the school was kind of like, well, this is what we think we have to do. And being able to get connected with resources like the MDE Best Practices Toolkit, and being able to provide the school with a pathway and say, this is what the best practices are and what I expect of you. And that was really helpful. And just tips like, anything you have a phone conversation about, send a follow-up email saying, thank you for our conversation about blah, 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 to document it in writing that happened. That was such a helpful thing that I've used even in parenting, non-transition situations. That was really helpful. And then also, TFF connected us with Rainbow Health, with Phil Duran and the legal advocacy piece, because my husband, our insurance is through the miners union, the 49ers, kind of old school union, and in a very tricky situation where they're a federal union, so they don't have to follow state law, but they're self-funded. They don't have to accept federal dollars so they don't have to follow ACA guidelines. So they have a blanket exclusion on all trans healthcare. And we were able to, Phil sent a really great, strongly worded letter to the union insurance part. You could tell I need a lot of help with this, right? That's why I ask people that know what they're talking about to help me. And so we are still navigating that and bringing that to the board of trustees for the insurance, because they can't discriminate against my kids' care and other people's care. So that was really helpful, just to send us in the right direction of people that know how to help, that are familiar with situations like ours. That's been really helpful. Those are just a couple examples.
Other ways that TFF has helped our family beyond the meetings once a month, definitely just in the visibility and community, creating community outside of those walls. allowing us to show our daughter a world that has tons of folks that are like her in the community. I know our daughter went through kind of a rough situation at school, and for the first time had lost a lot of confidence in who she was. And shortly after that, that we had Trans Day of Visibility at the Capitol. And there were tons of TFF folks there that she knew. And throughout the day, we just watched her gain her confidence back and grow back into that fierce, beautiful girl that she is. And by the time we left there, we went to Whole Foods afterwards for a little lunch, and she had her trans cape on and was walking through the store all proud. And so for us, that's the stuff that matters, getting our daughter back to the person she's supposed to be.
Thought of one more.
Yeah, do it.
Becker is a town really close to where I live. We're about 8 miles from Becker, and they also had a hate group come speak at their school board meeting. And TFF came, and that meant so much because I come to the cities for a lot of things, but for people from the metro to come up to our area and show up and just say, you know, this is not okay to make young people feel unwelcome in their own communities. And we are not gonna, we're not gonna stand by and let this kind of hate and fear dictate people's lives. That meant so much. Even though I don't have kids in Becker, it's literally the next town down the road, and we know folks who are there. And that was a beautiful show of solidarity with our rural community.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because in my head, it's like, we have to talk about school board meetings, right? Transforming Families has been very active across the metro area and beyond when these gender inclusion policies are debated. And oftentimes when it's your family who's there, I can remember from personal experience, it's pretty lonely if you feel like you're the only ones arguing for this gender inclusion to happen. But then when you have 2 or 3 or 4 people in purple shirts come sit next to you, even if they aren't allowed to make public comment, because sometimes you can only make public comment if you're from the area, having that family, that solidarity there with you, and then even having those school board members see that beyond your school district, people are watching and waiting for you to do the right thing. So, okay, so right now we see trans youth being attacked at the state level all across the United States. There are gender affirming care bans in so many states right now, and it's almost surrounding Minnesota. I say almost because Wisconsin hasn't passed anything yet, but it's been proposed. They have a governor who will hopefully veto it, but it's scary right now to be a trans kid or the parent or caregiver of a trans kid. And so thankfully Minnesota, along with other states, have become trans refuge states. And we've solidified into law the right for gender affirming care to happen for our children and for our trans adults. And so what I want to know is, how do you see transforming families growing to meet the needs of new parents who are fleeing their state and bringing their kids here for safety, because they're here and they're coming. I could go through the inbox if you want me to. But we get an email every couple of days from people asking. But so what role do you envision transforming families playing in welcoming these families? And then how do you see us growing to meet those needs?
I think that one of the powerful parts of our organization is the fact that, you know, people like me, so we have our facilitators who are trans and non-binary adults. And I think there's a lot of power in open space for parents to have that peer-led support and the wonder in that, but also to see all these trans and non-binary adults and to see there is a future for your child. There are so many different ways to be, and the wonder of like we have about 11 facilitators for littles and teens and tweens, and the variety of people who we have that are very different than one of my peers, and that's wonderful. And building that trust and building that community, whether you're showing up every month, you're showing up when you need to, and just getting a chance to build that trust and talk to us and say, what does it look like? You know, when my child turns 18, you know, what was your experience like if you're willing to share and having that? So I think it's different avenues for that connection, saying, I might have come from somewhere where we were the only ones and we felt really alone, but TFF will have your back in different ways. And just show you the diversity and the joy that can come up from trans adulthood and the spaces I think that are intergenerational and the care and the just the goodwill that us facilitators have for these youth and wanting the best for them and wanting the best for these families. And adding space in our heart of saying, yes, you know, in our friend groups, in our peer spaces, we have this system of care and these other ways that we're really trying to navigate systems that are challenging for us as adults. We see what youth are going through, even though it's not our experience, we will still fight for you, we will still care for you, and we will add more tools to parents and families to roll out so that they can take on what they need to in order to care for their children, their family, and to be really seen and understood in Minnesota moving here.
The role I see TFF playing in supporting families that are coming here for refuge, I think is the depth and breadth of experience in our parent community. I see folks all the time saying, you know, we're moving from Iowa and we're trying to decide between this suburb or that. And people jumping in with, you know, boots on the ground experience. So, you know, even within this district, this elementary school was more affirming than that elementary school. Literal lived experience from our parents, I think, is a really important gift that we share with people moving here. I also think another role that we can play is connections. I'm really grateful to Hannah and her efforts to collaborate with so many different organizations in the metro so that people coming that have really specific needs, there's a way to say, oh, we have a contact with that organization, or oh, we've collaborated with this community. And so that kind of warm passing on to, you know, like what you did for me with Phil Duran. You know, this is someone that we know, that we trust, that we've worked with, and they're going to help you too. That is a beautiful thing that we can do for each other.
I think TFF is uniquely situated in a space where we can be extremely helpful for folks moving in here from communities that they don't feel they belong to any longer. I think there's quite a few of us who go to meetings and maybe previously we had support in one community and that community is not aligning with our values anymore. And so we understand where people are coming from. We also understand what Minnesota nice is. We understand what it means to show up to a meeting, saying nice things to someone. That's one thing, but it's another thing to be able to text Hannah at 8 in the morning and be like, oh my gosh, this just happened, what do I do? And have a friend on the other side responding, right? So I think TFF is ready to expand, embrace families, and hopefully, like everyone else said, expand the connections that folks have to the state of Minnesota. I think when you think of a group like TFF, you might have one thought in your mind, like specific political party, you know, church affiliation, non-church affiliation, that kind of thing. And I think you'd be pretty shocked because those of us who are lucky enough to have kids who are trans or non-binary or gender expansive, we come from all different walks of life, different careers, different backgrounds, and it's a great community, and we're ready.
okay, since you both called me out for being supports for you, I want to call out the fact that that is so important.
Yeah.
Right, and I am here director right now. But 8 years ago, when I came to Transforming Families, there were parents who did the same for me. It makes me feel emotional thinking about it because I text at, midnight. Oh my gosh, I hate groups coming to my kid's school. What do I do? Right? Or, oh my gosh, my kid wants to go and buy different underwear. Of course, but I'm having weird feelings about it. Why? We've been there to support each other through all these amazing and different things, right? And so I think that's the best part of Transforming Families is that I'm here now, you're here now, and then in the future we'll continue paying it forward. And the people who just joined us, whether from out of state or already here, I'm hoping that we can continue on with the work. So I just want to thank all of you for being here, and I think we actually have a couple minutes for if there's like a question or two, and then we'll do a closing.
I just have a logistical question.
Yeah.
If someone is moving here from another state, can they attend the online group?
Absolutely. So we did a table this morning. We were stretched a little thin. We've got 2 pride events this weekend and 2 or 3 last weekend. Wonderful that there's so much going on. But we do have some information out on a table now. So if you want to take one of the cards, all someone has to do to be part of our meetings or our private Facebook group is to be vetted by one of the leadership members. And they do that by emailing info@TFF org or by our public Facebook group messaging through that public Facebook group, and then we do our vetting, and we'll put you in the newsletter, and we will invite you to our private Facebook group. So yeah, yes, we've had, and Jenna does our online ones, and you.
I'm a social worker by profession, and so resources are totally my jam. And so folks from out of state are absolutely welcome to come to our virtual meeting, and then we can help connect them with specific needs that they may have. So absolutely, it's a great way to start kind of putting feelers out for folks that are considering Minnesota for safety.
Yeah,
Do you have any plans to expand farther into greater Minnesota?
we absolutely do.
I'm sorry, for a rural organization.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say we started in Minneapolis and have expanded across the metro. I am the first director to have it in my heyday to focus on transforming families at all. And so a year and a half ago, when I came into this role, I thought, oh my gosh, we need to expand, we need to do all of these things. I was an art teacher for 13 years before this. And so we've amped up our fundraising a little bit. We're applying for grants, but we are a donation-based program. We pay our adult trans and non-binary facilitators to do our meetings. So our meetings have that cost. Most of the places where we host our meetings, it's free, right? They give us the space for free. But relying solely on donations, we haven't been able to expand. I do have hopes and plans to add Rochester and then maybe Duluth. But we've also talked about Northfield and Moorhead in that Marshall area. My pie in the sky dream is that if you come ask this question in 2 years from now, I will name 15 different locations that have Transforming Families meetings. But it's going to take some hard work and some funding.
Forest Lake.
Forest Lake, sure. Yeah, we'll have a meeting in Forest Lake. Let's do it. Yes.
Do you know of any organizations in Iowa?
So we work with One Iowa a lot. I will say we've had a lot of families, even prior to the gender affirming caravan, travel from Iowa to the Twin Cities for meetings. And so I don't know if there's another group similar to us in Iowa. There might be. I would certainly think they might be, I hate to say it, but in hiding and more secretive now. So if you connect with One Iowa, though, they might be a good place for you to find. And then in South Dakota, I know there's a transformation project, I think it's called, who does some similar work to what we do in supporting youth and their families.
I have a question, what can the broader friends community do for you? I mean, I don't have kids,
Yeah,
but I'd like to be supportive and I don't have money right now to donate.
so here's what I'm gonna say, maybe if you all have an answer to it, I would love to pass the microphone. I know for me, it's exactly what Toby mentioned before, come be in community with us. It's important for me and for my child to see trans adults and to know trans adults and to love and be loved by other trans people and adults. So the biggest thing you can do, donate, is share, come like our Facebook page, and then come be in community with us, right? At Day with the Transgender Child, it's such a beautiful, diverse group of people of all ages, and it's my favorite day because our kids get to be with each other and play. They get to see other adults and friends and families. So yeah, my personal answer would be just come be in community with us.
I think also the joy too of like, with all the events we mentioned in October, as we build capacity, we might really be looking for volunteers, to train about how to table, how to show up and talk about transforming families. And that's one thing that I'm working on as assistant director right now. We're looking to our facilitators, but also looking outward and saying, who else wants to be trained and would love to volunteer their time so that we then have capacity to do some other things and also be there to table with you, of course, but to find that balance and build that because we want to be able to expand and table and reach out to community and family. We want to do it all, right? So that's sort of the joy of community members saying, hey, like, how can I show up? And if you have that time available, or maybe it's helping, get some, from like, I don't have a vehicle, for example. So like, oh, we can bring this, the tabling stuff over somewhere. The small ways that really that can also make a difference, but also be really wonderful as well.
Two things come to mind. The first one is get active in school board elections. School is the place where our youth spend the majority of their waking hours. And so a school board can make or break a kid's feeling of safety, belonging, and inclusion. So that's something all of us can do, that we can ask in public forums about school candidates' beliefs and how they will carry those out if they are elected. Communicating with others that share our deeply held affirmation for trans youth that they need to vote in school board elections. That I think is the primary thing that I want from all of you, especially those of you in rural areas. The second thing is visibility, because of trans adults' courage to be visible in our community. Just with like a lapel pin or a lanyard, my son knows that trans people are everywhere. They work at the grocery store stocking produce. They are at the circulation desk at the library. That trans people are everywhere, and that helps my son see a future for himself as a trans adult. So visibility and voting are the two things I would ask.
Okay, so at every Transforming Families meeting, we end our parent group with a moment of joy. A lot of times we can go through some heavy stuff in our meetings, lots of emotions come up, and really our kids are amazing and wonderful in big ways and in small ways. And so we always share that moment of joy. And so that's what we're going to do now for our end days. We're going to each share a moment of joy about our child or ourselves, just so that we can end on that positive note. I will start. My trans child is 13, and she's in a children's theater play right now that I highly recommend. You will all cry. It's called Morris Nicolite in the Tangerine Dress. And the moment of joy isn't actually her being in the play. She's evil, she's the bully. Even as a trans girl, she says, well, at least it's someone who's experienced bullying. Mom is gonna say, you can't wear that dress. She said, just turn around. But yesterday was the Pride night. It also happened to be my littlest daughter's 9th birthday. And I would be lying if I had said that she wasn't a little bummed. She's seen the play 3 times. Oh, I have to go again. And I said, it's gonna be so fun. It's a party. And the moment of joy was when the cast came up to sign autographs. And Hildy said, it's my little sister's birthday. We all had to sing happy birthday to her. And the moment of joy was that I have the best big sister for my little daughter ever. So I'm really proud of that.
I think a moment of joy for me has really been getting to know the larger community, Outfront, Gender Justice, Rainbow Health, all these organizations really showing up every day because they impact me always, whether I see it or not. And talking to people and seeing what they offer, and I think just wanting to go up to every table and say, thank you for what you do, I really appreciate it. I think the joy of building community in Minnesota. I moved here, I went to school in Iowa, grew up in Hawaii, been across, moved around to a cooler state, it happens. But the queer and trans community that I built here and the people who have really let me be fully me, beyond the binary, I know what you read, in my non-binary way, I get that in day-to-day, but all the moments, in TFF, outside of TFF, in the world where someone just like sees me for the complication and the multifacetedness of me, and whatever I'm wearing, whatever earrings I had that day, whatever it is, and just feeling like there is space for me to exist. And if there's space for me to exist, there's so much space for everyone else who is questioning trans, non-binary, wherever you on your journey, queer, or just really wanting to ally and support those communities. To be proud and to feel fully themselves in whatever way they're able to in that moment, in that day. And so it just makes me feel really honored to be here and to be in this state, in this space with that community surrounding me to make me feel like I'm still seen, even when parts of the world might not.
I was thinking about your question, and I think in parenting a trans youth, there are sometimes that his transness is really big and it takes up a lot of space in all the best ways. And then there are times that his transness is more subtle and it's not at the forefront. And there's other things that are big in his experience. And so right now it's one of those times that his transness is not necessarily center stage because him being trans is normal, and that's the joy, right? That's part of the joy. But one thing I would say is that in St. Cloud, there was some pushback about safe space stickers that had started in surrounding districts, and some of the hate in those areas started to encroach on our district. And we're in union negotiations for our next teacher contract. And our negotiators left the bargaining table because they said, if you are going to tell us we can't have our safe space stickers, then it's not a safe place for teachers to teach. And that was some big joy. Really grateful for our union leadership. That was a big one. Because when our teachers can visibly support our youth, my son will thrive. And so that was definitely a joy I had recently.
I think a recent joy that I witnessed or felt while I was witnessing Asher in the world, she was talking with her really cool doctor, Dr. Gepford. And Dr. Gepford asked Asher, what does it mean to be trans or non-binary? And Asher said, well, it means I get to be me. I have a really cool community. There's a ton of people who love me and support me. And that was really cool. That's it.
You can see crying happens in our meetings all the time.
Yeah, we got
I just want to thank each and every one of you in the audience for being here and listening to us. We're an org that grew from this big, and I'd say now we're this big with plans to be this big. Please come and talk with us. Come ask questions afterwards if you have any more questions. Oh, yeah, follow us on social media because we have been trying to do different fundraisers that are like fun and exciting and different. And on November 12th, Art with the Point, if you want to see some quality tattoo work that they've done, Art with the Point is having a flash tattoo pop-up, and all of the proceeds are going to Transforming Families. And so in the next couple of days here, we're going to be announcing some of the flash and getting ready for that. And then on November 17th, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't mention, so there's a Trans Refuge Coalition that's been meeting the past 4 months, of which Transforming Families is a part of. And we're gonna host calling it Rainbow Feast. And so it's gonna be a free community Thanksgiving kind of a deal on November 17th. And so if you follow Transforming Families, we'll be posting about that. But that would be another great way to come be in community so that people who are new here can start making some connections. But yeah, otherwise, thank you to my amazing family here. You all are my favorite. Gold stars for showing up to tell others about Transforming Families. And I appreciate each of you, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you everyone for coming on behalf of Rainbow Health. We appreciate having all of you out here today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
For a living. I mean, you're like. Yeah, I know, I'm kind of.
I have a question. So, thank you.